think it would do them all some good. But anyway, please. I want to just find something. Something positive today. All this anger. All this near viciousness. All this very much viciousness. Directed exclusively at Christians that are making public statements in support of their faith. Now, in a lot of cases, people aren't doing anything more than a Facebook post saying, I choose to follow Christ, or I stand with God's law, God's principles. They'll make a statement like that, and then the next thing you know, they're being called bigots, or worse. They're being called hateful. They're being called terrorists. They're being called just about every negative name you can throw out there. But when it comes right down to it, that's not exactly something new for Christians. We've faced that before. Persecution is not something new to the Christian condition. But before anybody starts whining about being harassed on Facebook, I would like to remind you that there are Christians in Syria and in Iraq that are being slaughtered by ISIS. Children being crucified. Mothers are being forced to stay inside and watch the crucifixion of their children, and then released, and as they're running out to try and go and hold their child, they're being grabbed and having their arms chopped off. This after the mother and the children have already watched the father in the household already be executed in some fashion. They're burning people alive in cages. They're lowering cages with people in them underwater and forcing them to drown. And they're sticking GoPro cameras where you can witness the whole thing. And it's because these people refuse to utter the conversion prayer. These people, they're dying as martyrs. That's real persecution, and that is real faith. That's standing on a principle. Seems like the least we can do is stand on principles. At some point there has to be an awakening. I mean, we have a choice in how we react. We can react like the guy who owns the hardware supply store and lash out in anger. Or we can choose a different path. A path of turning the other cheek, at least for a little bit. It's not popular, not in the modern age. But it's something that might help lead to reconciliation. It's something that might help lead to helping some folks understand that standing against same-sex marriage based on religious reasons, or constitutional ones in my case, doesn't equate to hating anybody. And a lot of this momentum, a lot of this movement has been emboldened and caught fire based on young people, in particular the millennials in this case. And I think a lot of these people have gotten on board because they see some type of injustice in this. They don't think that it's fair. They don't think that it's proper. That it is some type of persecution. That it is some type of discrimination. Well, when you see injustice, you want to do something about it. So I think a lot of those same people are going to see this continued in-your-face, we're going to assault you, we're going to force you to accept, we're going to bully you. We're going to do to you all the things that were done to the actual gay, lesbian, transgender community folks. And the more you see that, the more I think you're going to see some of these millennials start to turn away and say, hey, wait a minute. This isn't right either. Now, I might be wrong about that, but I honestly think that's the case. And meanwhile, let's take one last break, and then after that, we'll be right back and finish things up. Stay with me. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Thanks for staying with me. And, you know, one more time, I just have to say that we've really got our work cut out for us. But the tenets that this show was built on, delving past the headlines, exposing the media bias, moving past the propaganda, using your brain, a reemergence to common sense. These are all things that need to be more than just words. They need to be battle cries. A lot of this is nothing more than distraction and division and identity politics. It's been almost the continuing theme of my broadcast for like 3 or 4 weeks now is identity politics and how that's the politics of division. And how they'll throw everything against the wall till they get something to stick. And this time it ended up being the Confederate battle flag. Somehow they managed to get that to stick, and everybody and their grandmothers having this knee-jerk reaction. And all throughout the South and the former territories during this same time frame, where you may find some type of monument that leads to a remembrance of the former Confederacy. You see this massive effort to just completely erase its existence. I've said before, in my mind, and in the minds of a lot of folks from the South, first of all, before I even say that though, it is a Southern thing. And if you're not from the South, or you haven't at least spent a few years in the South before this madness started, then you're probably never going to understand it. Because number one, you have probably not been taught the truth about it in the first place. The Confederate battle flag is a symbol of pride in being from the states that were once part of the Confederacy. And that pride doesn't come from having tried to split off from the Union. It doesn't come from dealing with states' rights versus federalism. It doesn't come from slavery. It comes from the superior attitudes that a lot of northern folks expressed towards the South, especially immediately following the end of the War of Succession, which is what I try to refer to the Civil War. Sometimes I still let it slip out because, after so many years of being indoctrinated, Civil War. But as we've mentioned before, by definition, it wasn't actually a civil war. You did not have two separate factions that were fighting over control of the same government. You had one faction that was looking to separate and form its own country, and another faction that wanted to force those states to stay part of the same country. Not exactly the same thing. But ultimately what it comes down to here is that the Confederate battle flag does not represent slavery unless you want to force it to. But it's still a red herring. That was the piece of spaghetti that stuck to the wall for whatever reason. It represents pride in a heritage of a willingness to stand on our own. But it also serves as a reminder of mistakes that were made. Slavery among them. A reminder that we should treat all humans as equals and not as property. Unless, of course, you're into some kinky S&M type games, the 50 Shades of Grey kind of nonsense, which actually that was nonsense because... completely off topic, I just want to visit here for a second. Did you hear how the Dom sub community, is it sub, Dom, sub, whatever, just absolutely attacked the 50 Shades of Grey movie. I don't think they liked the books very much either. Completely off from what their subculture is really like. Of all the things to get upset about, hey, everybody's sensitive about something. But it's a red herring, folks. It's a red herring. It's just an opportunity to get people to do the work for the progressives who are trying to label us and put us in our nice little neat boxes and keep us separated so that they can better garner control. So that they can do the job of destroying our republic, our once great republic, that is now struggling to exist. If our legislature doesn't stand up and stop the out-of-control executive branch soon, there'll be nothing left. If the next president doesn't put constitutional originalists on the Supreme Court when they get the opportunity to select another judge, then it's all but lost. We are literally in the death throes of the greatest experiment in liberty ever conceived. Our republic is slowly slipping away, and it's on display in something as simple as social media. Get on Facebook, and I dare you to find any news story that's good news. In fact, I bet I can pull up Facebook right now and look at what's trending. Which, by the way, that's what I'm doing right now. Let's see if we can find anything that's good. And I'll do the expanded one. At the moment, at the top, same-sex marriage. Appeals court moves to lift marriage bans in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Episcopal Church.